Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekend boxing review. Plenty to get going on. We had the Magnificent Seven, Pauls versus Bentley card. Liam Paro, Richardson Hitchins took place in Puerto Rico, and also Oscar Valdez, Emmanuel Navarrete, the rerun. Liam and Jay with me, as always, boys. It was a bit of a marathon this past weekend, but we made it through. Me and Liam just about made it. I think about 5:30 Sunday morning. We finished proceedings. So, yeah, how's things, first of all, boys?
Yeah, good, man. Really good.
Good.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, mostly yesterday to recover from being up till nearly 6 a.m. covering fights. So all good.
Yeah, me too. My phone wasn't on too much yesterday. To be fair, I'm a bit gutted I didn't make it right the way to the main event of the UFC, but, you know, it is what it was. I was so tired. I felt like I was going to fall asleep if I didn't.
I think I might have fell asleep for about 20 seconds on the watch along during Rachmanov and Gary. I think I might have done a J from the Jake Paul card and just crashed at some point.
Yeah, I've done
Look,
that.
it happens to the best. It happens to the best, boys. You know, we watch that many fights. You know, it's going to happen at some point. We got 3 of you with us at the minute. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Not too sure who it is. Make yourselves known in the chat. We'll start in London then. We'll do the Bentley Pauls card. We'll do a bit more of that. We'll just cover the main event of Navarrete Valdez 2 and Paro and Hitchins. We'll do from what we did the watch along on, because they were significant fights, really. So Solomon Dakers defended his English heavyweight championship against David Adelaide on Saturday. It didn't last for too long. We were just getting the intros done on the live watch along, and boom, Adelaide landed a left
elbow.
Cheated, left elbow.
Hit him with the old Liam Smith.
Yeah, the old Chris Eubank Jr. elbow. But yeah, absolutely folded.
Yes, Luca.
Adelaide. Big up, Luca. Hope you're well, my friend.
I mean, come on. Sam, he did what we had all said he was.
Yeah, look, we all predicted it, didn't we?
We predicted, you know, Adelaide in great shakes himself. You know, I think Fabio Wardley put paid to any sort of hype.
Yes,
that Frank Warren potentially was going to sell on David Adelaide being a world beater. I'm not saying people can't regroup and improve, but the basic fundamentals that I see that David Adelaide potentially doesn't have, I don't believe he's got the attributes to be trained up enough to get past the level he's boxing at now, which is British level WBO internationals and stuff like that. I mean, he might end up getting some form of world title shot. He's a heavyweight and he hits really hard. Solomon Dakers, unfortunately, is even a level below that. That fight went exactly to script. I didn't expect it to go as quick. I thought Solomon would give him maybe a couple of rounds because he's awkward and he's tall and he's rangy, and Adelaide's pretty short, really. I know he's a big dude, but in terms of heavyweights, he's got short arms. He's not, I don't think, what is he, 6'2", 6'3"? He's not 6'5", 6'6", is it?
No, he's that kind of heavyweight where he's bulky.
Stocky,
yeah, he's bulky, but like he's not tall. Yeah.
And I thought Dakers would handle a punch a little bit better. I know it sort of glanced the top of his sort of his temple and the top of his head and took his equilibrium away, but you could see that, I mean, nobody likes getting smacked anyway. You know, we're not professional fighters, but Solomon Dakers just has not got what it takes to take a shot. He just completely it discombobulates him, disorientates him, and I don't think he'd have got up even if he could have got up. I just think once he were on his ass, I think that's it for him.
It's a tough way back for Sol Dakers for me, lads, because he doesn't hit very hard, and you know, based off what we saw at the weekend, and like Jay said, yeah, it took his equilibrium away. It was high on the tempo, but you know, the signs weren't great. He in his first proper step up, and it was a step up because Adelaide, yes, he's not a world beater, but it was a step up from
his level up.
Yeah, the level up from, even though Sol was defending the English heavyweight championship. His first real step up, he's been flatlined in a round, hasn't he? In a minute or two, whatever the official timing was. Yeah,
it does. Sorry, Liam, and I will shut up in a second. But for me, it's a bad judge of the English belt, if that makes any sense, because I know Solomon Dakers was the defending champion, but I do believe that the English heavyweight title is better than that. Does that make sense to you? I just don't think that Solomon Dakers is a benchmark for the English title. I believe that I'm from a generation, obviously, I'm considerably older than you two. I'm from a generation where the English title wasn't really given any credence whatsoever. It was British, European, and world. The English and the southern area and the northern area and stuff, they weren't taken seriously. My brother won the English super featherweight years and years and years ago on an Amir Khan undercard, and it was a massive deal at the time. Just as the English had started to be put on a bit more of a pedestal, because it's sort of a gauge, isn't it? You get the area, you get the English, and then it's the next stop is the British Masters or the British title itself. I just don't believe that Solomon Dakers is a marker for the English. I believe that the English itself requires a better pedigree for me. And I know that sounds like I'm shitting on a man while he's down, but I just never believe the hype anyway. And I think we saw on Saturday night that the hype isn't real, or as we were sold.
Yeah. Liam, I'll give you your thoughts. Sorry, Ramblers in the house. I know I was interacting with you both in the chat about Maxi and Cully, so we'll definitely preview that one tomorrow. Sorry, Liam, Sol Dakers, Adelaide.
Look, I said during the week, despite the fact they're both Queensberry fighters, Frank Warren has set this fight up perfectly to get Adelaide a good win.
Oh, yeah.
I say a good win, a knockout victory, which is what he delivered, so he can now move back on towards British title or in-house Lawrence Okoli fight, potentially, for what that's worth. Sol Dakers, I've never rated Sol Dakers. If it wasn't David Adelaide in the other corner, I probably would have caught highlights instead of watching it, if that makes sense, because he doesn't do anything for me. He doesn't entertain me. And let's be really honest, Sol Dakers is an area champion in terms of what he's shown at this point. And I
agree with Luca as well.
Yeah, I agree with Luca as well. So the English title was he won that in a rematch against a guy who he struggled to be on points the year before. So I think it shows more the quality at heavyweight for the English title at the moment, as opposed to Sol Dakers' journey. In terms of what Adelaide does now, I said to Sam on Saturday, I'm not sure if you were on at the time, Jay, if I'm him, I'm Adam Booth, I am begging Frank Warren to put me on that February 8th Chisora card. You've literally had under 2 minutes work in 14 months. You're obviously going to take a step
some
up
ring time, man. Get activity. You got Booth behind you now and all the rest of it.
It doesn't have to be, a big step up. If he decides he just wants to defend this English title so he gets more rounds in, that's absolutely fine. But a big sign of what he wants to do will be if he wants to be active at the start of next year. Don't wait around for a payday and then you've got, it's a big fight. If I lose, look at the risk I've taken. No. Get yourself back in the ring. Get another ring under your belt. Otherwise, what is your ambition as David Adelaide? To be known as someone who he's fringe British level, but you can't get over the line with the belt. That's kind of where I'm at. Dakers, if I never see Sol Dakers fight again, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I'd be quite happy to never have to watch him have a fight again.
Can't disagree. Luke, I disagree with Luca, just for the simple fact it's Luca. I don't ever agree with anything that Luca's just going to disagree to be a prick, as always. I'm only joking, but I agree. Begrudgingly, I agree, Luca.
Yeah. Right, then we'll move up. We're not going to cover this one for too long. Again, another first round stoppage. Lawrence Okoli made his heavyweight debut. Looked like he ate the cruiserweight. Lawrence Okoli.
He's had all the sauce on his chips, hasn't he? God bless him.
Yeah.
Makes me feel better about myself when I've got my top off now.
Looks like he went back to his McDonald's days and was back on that kind of diet. Didn't need to weigh his beef like that fast.
Let's be real. He's naturally a fat kid, isn't he? He's naturally fat, similar to Tony Bellew. Tony Bellew made.
Did he not used to flip burgers? They used to say that all the time.
He worked in McDonald's during the 2012 Olympics.
Yeah, that was it.
McDonald's. That's why they did when Troy Williamson fought Ted Cheeseman. I can't remember who Okoli fought, but they did a promo, didn't they? And he was flipping burgers, and he said something, do you want cheese, man? Or some shit like that. But anyway, what I'm getting at is Tony Bellew was a heavyweight in the amateurs. So boiled down to light heavyweight, because obviously there's the weights at heavyweight at amateurs, sort of cruiserweight at light heavyweight at pros. So he boiled down. But then when he made the transition to cruiserweight, he made it fairly easily. And then when he fought David A, he made it fairly easily. He didn't have to put a load of timber on. He sort of did it as a natural progression. Whereas Lawrence Okoli, yes, he's naturally big, but he spent that long at bloody cruiserweight that That looked awful for me. I think if that fight had gone 5 or 6 rounds, it'd have been blowing out of his ass.
Look, let's be fair. Yeah, I agree with you. Let's be fair. Where they dragged that 18-1 record from out of Hussein.
Germany. That's where they all come from, mate. Germany.
Yeah, look, I'll never know. Like, he must have been fighting the caliber of us in a fight to get an 18-1 record, because he walked right into that right hand square on. It was a good shot. Don't get me wrong, but he was up to absolutely nothing. It was a waste of time. It was stupid having that fight as a benchmark at heavyweight. And I listened to TalkSport last week, and they were saying, "Oh well, Alexander Usyk." It was actually Coley who brought it up. This was before the fight. He says Alexander Usyk fought Chas Witherspoon in his first fight at heavyweight. So me fighting Muhammad, who cares? I'm going to get into bigger fights after that, which I get. But at the same time, what does bowling somebody over in a minute?
Nothing.
What does it do? It does absolutely nothing. And yeah, apart from it, probably boost a bit of Coley's
ego. His ego.
Coley can whack a heavyweight. Watch out for him. But we know he can whack anyway.
It could be detrimental for him moving forward, because it gives him an unrealistic gauge of his power. Right? We know he hits hard at cruiserweight. Doesn't necessarily transfer. He's basing it on. Excuse me. I've done rounds with Tyson Fury. I've done rounds with AJ. I've done rounds with Bacoli. He's done rounds with them all. He's also admitted that he's terrified of Moses Atoma. He's basically admitted that on TalkSport this afternoon, that he got beaten up by a 15-year-old kid. He didn't say that in as many words, but he's basically putting it out there that they're not going to fight. The friends and, he's worked with him. But for me, it doesn't do anything other than tickle his ego a little bit. They should have put him in a proper fight. Not a 50-50, but it should have had a challenge, and that wasn't a challenge. It looked it on paper, 18-1, I get that. But I bet you I could go to Germany tomorrow as a matchmaker and find you a 30-2, a 25-0, a 15-1. Somebody that's never boxed outside of small hall shows in Germany or somewhere on the continent. Eddie Hearn, on the likes, and Frank Warren, they've got staff to do that. They know that these people, and the casuals will lap it up. Lawrence Okoli knocked out this guy who was 18-1. He was shit. He was absolutely dog shit. And we learned. And to be fair, as short as the fight was, I thought Lawrence Okoli looked terrible.
He was hit a few times. Yeah, he was. He looked cumbersome. He looked slow.
I've read things online today where they're saying, you can see that Joe Gallagher's trying to get him out of the holding. He looked to hold at every flipping opportunity. He was crossing over his own feet. He was blowing out of his ass. Like you say, he was cumbersome.
That's laughable as well. That's a laughable statement. He's fought 2 fights with Joe Gallagher.
Yeah, but
both first round knockovers against people who didn't belong in the ring with him. Is that right, Liam? He's had 2 fights with Gallagher.
Yeah, 2 fights with Gallagher. I think
Gallagher don't train a dog to sit. Let's be real. Joe Gallagher's had one fighter that he's brought all the way through. Other than that, he's had well-established boxers that have joined his camp, and he's just built on and bolted on there on in. Right? His camp now has been decimated, and that tells you everything you need to know about that man. Right? What was Lawrence Okoli doing with this stupid? Did you see he were doing this? He had his arm up.
Gangnam style.
Go in there with somebody like, I don't know, Johnny Fisher. If he went in there with Johnny Fisher doing all that, he'd get absolutely leveled. Leveled. They'd have been better off throwing him in with someone like Alan Babich, somebody lower level, to give him a few rounds. Not bloody.
Yeah, it's a waste of space. Huey versus Sol Dakers on a TBM main event. Yeah, Lucas says.
That comes with a free pillow for everyone watching. If they put it
Sol versus Clark, so he won't get PTSD because he's no power, Rambler says. Jesus. Loser of Huey and Sars agreed to retire. Yeah, absolutely. Liam, any word on Lawrence before we move on?
Two things. When you watch that back, and I've watched it back with the audio, Lee Every, the referee, asked Muhammad to step forward 3 times.
Yeah, he wanted nothing.
Muhammad from the first angle was trying to then pretend he can't understand English all of a sudden. So he wanted no part of that after that one shot.
Nah.
Secondly, you put a WBC silver belt on it, which Frank Warren has come out today and said, the prestigious WBC silver title. Do me a favour.
Do me a favour, Frank.
Jesus. He's going to be up at what, number 2 or number 3 now off the back of doing that? It just diminishes what the heavyweight division is. Look, Lawrence Okoli has the potential to be a fantastic addition to the heavyweight division. But the way he looked on the scales, the way he looked in the ring, and the quality of the opponent on this last weekend don't indicate he's at that stage yet. By giving him a WBC silver belt, we're more likely to see him in there with a real heavyweight killer a lot earlier than we should do, as opposed to him fighting Johnny Fisher, even Adeleye or someone of that, Dillian White, someone of that ilk on a domestic front. We're more likely to see him in with a Daniel Dubois, a Joseph Parker, etc., a lot sooner. And when that happens, he'll be exposed because he's not done the weight right. He still crosses over his feet. He's still doing the same things that Shane McGuigan was trying to take out of him for 3.5 years. That's just going to overinflate his ego, overinflate Joe Gallagher's ego. And in the long term, it's not going to do him any good. Look, I stand for this to be clipped and me proven wrong when he flatlines Daniel Dubois or someone in 18 months' time. But right now, him getting a WBC silver belt and a top 3 ranking, you would assume, is a load of crap. I mean, it's the WBC convention starting tomorrow. They'll lay out their roadmap for the division. If he gets ordered for a final eliminator or any sort like that, that just tells you everything.
Well, look, Zhang and Kabiel are fighting for the interim, so they've got the WBC.
Yeah, but the WBC love an interim title defense, don't they? So you'll see whoever wins that defending it.
Rambler, why would you live in London if you've got millions in bank? He owns a restaurant in Dubai, so yeah, I'd live there too and dodge tax.
He's got the gym now as well, doesn't he?
Rocket science, brother. Yeah,
he's got
shares in a gym. He's got a restaurant. Why would you live in London?
Yeah, tax free, man. You can't blame him for that whatsoever.
I'll be there tomorrow.
He's got one eye on his future. He's already, he's for what it's worth. He's a 2-division world champion.
I'm not criticizing Lawrence Okoli, but I don't think he's that into boxing. I don't think he's that bothered about it. It gives me that vibe.
Joe Gallagher's not the right trainer for him.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
He's not going to show him anything different, anything groundbreaking. He's also a yes man. Lawrence Okoli needs a proper coach. I think he'd have been better off going with someone like Adam Booth, Shane McGuigan, back to Shane McGuigan. Just not Joe Gallagher. Joe Gallagher's about Joe Gallagher. Anyway, I don't want to go on a rant about how much of a prick I think Joe Gallagher is. But yeah, I just don't think he's the right coach for Okoli. I know he's only had 2 fights, but I haven't seen anything that, at least when you see a fighter go to someone different within a couple of fights. Look at Daniel Dubois, for example. Prime example.
Do you know what's going to happen? Do you know what will happen? And you've seen it so many times. Actually, similar to AJ at Ben Davison. So he knocked over Otto Wallin and Ngannou, wasn't it, with Ben Davison? It was Hellenius and Franklin were with Derek James. But AJ was exposed against Dubois because he hadn't been in with the level of opposition of Daniel Dubois in 4 or 5 fights since Usyk 2. And what will happen with Lawrence if he's not careful is if he keeps fighting these knockover jobs, as soon as he takes a real step up in competition, he's going to be ill prepared and he's going to get absolutely flattened.
One thing about Joe Gallagher, he will let him go in and take that fight. One thing about Gallagher is he likes his percentages. He's not going to say, Lawrence, I don't think you're ready for this. And, I think we should take another lot. He'll go, yeah, get him in there. And Lawrence Okoli.
He needs a big fight, man. I heard Dillian White. I was hearing White. He's fighting this weekend, isn't he?
Dillian White, as past it as he is, will beat the dog shit out of Lawrence Okoli. I'm telling you now, he'll beat the dog shit. Chisora will. He's not at that level yet. He needs a couple of good fights against.
He needs to fight some real opposition.
Charles Martin, somebody, Miller, somebody fringe world level. If he's walking around with a WBC silver strap on, then he's 1-2 fights away from a world title fight. Needs to be fighting people of that ilk, then, doesn't he?
Yeah. For me. Yeah. Like we just said, it's detrimental to him letting him do it. He should actually probably look to go British Commonwealth route at heavyweight and actually move into the weight naturally, as opposed to what he's ended up doing.
Yeah, well, he's not going to improve. But anyway, I don't want to.
Last one. If you fought Johnny Fisher tomorrow, who would you pick?
Fisher.
That tells you everything you need to know.
I would pick Fisher, and Fisher's very green.
He's raw, man. He's a raw.
Yeah, he is raw. But
has he boxed for a belt yet?
No, like area or something.
That tells me everything I need to know.
Southern area or something. But yeah, we'll see what he does against Dave Allen next weekend. Right then, so after that fight, it was the first proper fight that we saw. I guess the 12-rounder anyway. Ryan Walsh, what bravery, heart, and all the rest of it. You know, how he didn't get knocked out against. I think Noakes, one of you pointed out in the live watch along straight away. He walked over to Liam Walsh and goes, "Your brother is ridiculous."
Yeah.
You know, because Sam Noakes, obviously, he's been in enough fights, even though he's only 15, 16 fights into his career. He's knocked out everyone bar Mendy and obviously Ryan Walsh now. He knows he cracks hard. His record suggests he cracks very hard. He knows that he was hitting Ryan Walsh with shots that have been knocking over other people, maybe even more established people than Ryan Walsh. But, you know, similar to, you know, the likes of Nate Diaz and people like that we talk about in MMA, some people are just made of absolute granite. And he could have hit Ryan Walsh with a sledgehammer on Saturday night and he just wasn't going anywhere. And like you said, Jay, I think on Saturday at 38, it was probably his swan song. And, you know, we Dan in the chat and a few of us were kind of, you know, could the corner have a little look here? But I think they made the right call, letting him stay in there. I think, you know, he didn't touch down or anything like that. He was taking a bit of a slacking for.
I think his nose made it look worse than what it actually was. His nose was badly bust. There was a lot of claret. I think he had a cut up on one of his eyes as well. So at stages in the fight, it looked brutal, but he wasn't, you know, he was throwing back. The referee, I think he thought he was shadowboxing because he was only looking at Ryan. He wasn't looking at anybody else. He just literally. So I thought he might have stopped it a couple of times. He was the hand guy, wasn't he? Was he the hand ref? He was the hand guy, wasn't he? That had the you know, try to do his brand. But what I'm getting at is, I thought all the claret and him taking a bit of an arse whooping at some stage in that fight, it would get stopped, but not by his corner, by the ref. But it was competitive. As competitive as a one-sided fight could be, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But Ryan Walsh was still in the fight, but he was losing every round. But he was still competitive in stages of each round, but he was getting bested in each round. I didn't give him a round as much as I wanted to. I'm a fan, I'm a friend. I've known Ryan and his brothers for a lot of years. You know, I was gutted to see him go out like that if he does. Call it a day, but there's no shame. You know, Sam Noakes is potentially going to be a world champion, and he's on a bit of a tear at the moment. And as you said, he's stopped everyone bar two of his opponents. He even made Lee Connolly retire, and Lee Connolly's one of the toughest journeymen out there, the vegan warrior, and he made him retire. You know, did Sam Noakes? He hits hard, and you know, it was a good performance, very, very good performance. You know, it stands him in good stead. Does doing 12 hard rounds because he was meant to work as well.
Yeah, even definitely. DJ Pat's in the house. Hope you're well, my friend. Liam?
Yeah, look, Sam Noakes for me is taking another step towards what should be a world title opportunity in 2025. Having gone back and watched it since, I thought on the night it looked like a performance of someone who's ready to take that next step up, and just reaffirmed it for me. If you want to be hypercritical, he didn't go for the finish. I think by round 9-10, he realised he probably wasn't going to get the finish, so he took his foot off the gas if you want to be uber critical. But that, for me, I said in the build-up that a dominating win, you know, and a 10-11-1 victory on points would be as impressive as a stoppage. And I stand by that, because not many people have done that to Ryan Walsh either. Yes, a 38-year-old Ryan Walsh that is at the tail end of his career and has got this opportunity off the back of upsetting the odds in September. But not a lot of people have done that to Ryan Walsh. That will stand him in better check going into a world title fight than getting it done in 4 or 5 rounds. He just is relentless. He comes out at a fast pace, body and head work. He has great punch selection, but he's also cute enough to recognize when he needs to take a step back, allow his opponent to come onto him, regather himself, and then go again. What they do next with him, British and Commonwealth, he should be done with now. I'll be happy to see him vacate those. If he's not going straight in for the world title, then another European defense against the world level contender. If that's,
I think he needs that.
What they want to do. But yeah, look, I was impressed with him when I saw him in September. I was even more impressed on Saturday night because Ryan Walsh asked more questions in taking a battering than Segula did by being a human punch bag for 8 or 9 rounds.
I think one more for me. Yeah, I mean, he needs one more against a better opponent. There's a difference between Gianluca Seglia, Ryan Walsh, with the greatest of respect, and Denis Berinchyk. There is a massive skill gap difference between that. You need to bridge that gap for me, just that little bit. You know, a European. I know he was European champion against Seglia, but Seglia is not. And Liam, you were there. You saw what Seglia had that night. Yeah. You know, he needs one more for me. he doesn't need to fight a world level. Well, it'd be great if he fought and beat a world level guy. Did they do the Chamberlain fight instead of the Padley rematch? I don't know, but he needs one more, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to see him at world level, but I also think he needs to have a gut check. As far as I'm aware, yes. Sam Noakes was meant to get that this year against Mendy. Segula was supposed to give it to him. People said Ryan Walsh could possibly give it to him. So he's come through 3, on paper, very tough fights this year, and he's probably lost a round. Officially, I think, because Mendy was 120, 108 on all 3. Saturday night, one of the judges gave Walsh a round. So in 3 fights this year, Sam Noakes has lost a round across 32 rounds of boxing. He's lost 1 round this year. So, he needs something a little bit more competitive. But then again, it might just be that Sam Noakes is going to do this to anyone, even when he gets to world honours. We don't know how he's going to get on against the world's best yet. I'm not saying I'm of that school of thought, but he's only going to open himself up to a complacent performance and slipping up if he stays down at this level any longer. He needs to push on. And Frank said as good as it in his review of the weekend he done today. I mean, I didn't agree with his stuff he said on Okoli, nor did I agree with him saying Adelaide should push on towards world names in 2025. But I did agree with what he said about Noakes, and that was, we need to move this kid on now. He either defends his European title or we get him into a world title fight. And absolutely. Right, just on Ryan Walsh, another fantastic servant. I mean, he's done an article today with BBC saying that he's going to fight on. I don't want to see him fight on, but what the Walsh family have done for boxing, he's the last one standing in the ring now. That is going to be a legacy that ends when he eventually does. But he can be proud of that performance. He didn't go out on his arse, did he? He stood and toughed it for 12 rounds, and he had moments. Some of his body work early in the fight was really, was making Sam Noakes have to take a few steps back and regather himself. But ultimately, age and on the rise versus on the decline played a massive factor in that fight for me.
100%. Wayne Herman's in the house. Hope you're well, my friend.
He needs testing. I think the problem with Sam Noakes is when he hits a brick wall, when he hits somebody that's just as fast, just as strong. Yeah. So he needs a fight of that ilk. Now,
you need to find out a bit more about yourself at that point.
I'd like to see him go away, abroad.
Yeah.
Fight on an undercard, an American undercard, something like that against a Mexican, maybe a former world champion, a South American. I think he needs a proper test. He maybe needs to get put on his ass or something like that, just to really find out. Because if he goes to world level and gets a gut check there, that's when it could be detrimental. I think he needs a gut check before that. But it might be good enough where the gut check never comes. I'm not dismissing him as no good. He's obviously very, very talented. Nobody jumps out. I mean, Ryan Walsh is one of his best wins. And we're just talking about Ryan Walsh hopefully retiring at 38. So as good as we're saying Sam Noakes is, and as hard as we say he punches, who's he fought?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Here's a question. Here's a question.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan. What I'm saying is I'm trying to get him to a point where we really believe that he's ready for a world title. And I don't think he is yet. I think the gap is still too big.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question for you, lads. And knowing we're going to get another Matchroom Queensbury 5v5 at some point in the new year, and obviously it depends on this other fighter's position. How about him against Joe Cordina?
Yeah, we're going to say that.
I like it.
Obviously, Cordina might not still be a matchroom fighter.
Don't even wait for 5v5. Do it now.
Yeah. Well, how about that? That would be a test for him. Former world champion. That would answer the questions of he's ready to jump in. He needs another fight.
That's a really good fight. Yeah,
I like that, mate.
I like that one. Yeah, let's see that then. Good stuff. Right, we'll quickly move on to the main event, and we'll quickly cover the next few off. Brad Pauls, Denzel Bentley, British, European, WBO International on the line. It was a good fight. Right winner, definitely. Remind me of the cards again. Was it it was UD?
117, 111, 116, 112. I think it was it not?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just checking now.
It was unanimous, wasn't it?
111 twice.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I was disappointed with Brad Pauls' performance.
Yeah, he tried really hard, but he was outclassed.
Maybe not. Maybe that was the wrong thing to say. I was disappointed in the overall performance from Team Pauls. I think his corner didn't. I've watched it back. corner didn't give him any different tactics to do throughout the fight. They were sort of re-emphasizing things that they'd said in round 1, in round
Plan A
6.
didn't work and there was no plan B.
Yeah, and it's like, trap him, do this. And it wasn't working. And I'm like, shit, man, I'm not a boxing coach, but even I could see from round 4 that following him round isn't working. As I said on the live, he was too sharp. He was too slick. He was finding the range. He was finding the space. You could see what Pauls was doing a mile off. We could see that he was trying to jab he was trying to throw his jab and then take that overhand right. Denzel just waited for him to do that, step back, hit him with 3-4 punches and went for a little bit of a walk around. An easy night's work for him. I thought it'd be a lot closer.
He didn't land anything meaningful, did he, Pauls? To be honest, he didn't ever hurt Denzel. He didn't get his respect or anything like that.
No.
Whereas Denzel dropped him with a jab, didn't he, in like the 9th
10th rounds.
Yeah.
So going back to the scorecards, 117, 110, 116, 111, 115, 112.
Yeah,
Okay. They're
115,
not the worst
112.
cards ever. 115, 112.
115, 112.
Yeah.
I mean, I had it 12-0.
I had it 118, 109. That's where I scored it. But we were asked the question, weren't we, when we were doing the live overnight, mate? A few people asked, Bentley now, where does he go? And I think this is when you were getting yourself a drink or something, mate. And I answered it as Denzel Bentley needs to be in against challenging opponents to deliver his best performance. Argument of that is when he went in against Janabek, yes, he lost, but it's one of the best performances of his career. Yeah. When he went in against Nathan Heaney, who, yes, beat him, but no one really gave Nathan Heaney a chance, he delivered one of his flattest performances of his career. So my argument with him is if you put him in a world title fight, he's going to give the best version of himself. He's more like he's a serious fighter that if he keeps doing British level fights, he'll come unstuck again because the motivation won't be there. So I do think if Janabek moves up, then he will get that vacant title shot. And I do believe with the right opponent, he will win a world title. And you can't say that's unjustified with Denzel Bentley. What he's done in his career, he's fallen short against someone who we believe will go up and win world titles at 168 in Janabek, if we're being honest about that. So the time's now for a British title, for him to get a world title shot. Hopefully, if he doesn't, he just at least defends the European. We don't need to see him taking on Nathan Heaney again. Or
he's done a domestic level.
He's done that.
He's past all that now. And let's also not forget that a lot of the press coverage and marketing in the build-up to this fight was about the Nuki bomber and about what he was doing and what he was going to do. If Brad Pauls had won this fight, it'd have been on TalkSport this morning and they'd have been pushing him for a world title fight.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Frank Warren's not going to do that for Denzel Bentley, but I do believe that a lot of people thought, well, they did. They thought Brad Pauls were going to come off and pull off a shot. And then it would be Nuki's first this and Nuki's, first world title shot. And he needs that now. Denzel Bentley's done enough. He's served his apprenticeship over and over and over again. As you say, if he goes back down to the level, and I'm not dismissing anybody at that level, the domestic level, he's going to come unstuck against somebody that potentially won't beat him right now. But his motivation won't be there, as you said. He needs big fights. He deserves the big fights. He deserves a big fight on a Saudi card or a world title fight. Yeah.
So, quote from Frank in his roundup he's done. He said, I said to Denzel after the fight, I promise you I'll deliver you a world title shot in 2025. You don't need to, he's basically along the lines of, you don't need to be at British level anymore. It's time for you to push on. But he's also guaranteed that Brad Pauls will get another go. He'll get to come round again. He's not now going to have to go back to the small hall. So
nice one.
Which is good. I mean, Frank's been with, Denzel's been with Frank since the beginning of his career. So that's a relationship that's been going 24 fights now. Brad Pauls, I'm pretty sure, got offered a 2-fight deal after the first Heaney fight. So this would be the second fight. So look, Brad Pauls can win a British title again. I think what he came up against on Saturday night is a fighter that's fringe world level, who realistically shouldn't be fighting for a British title anymore. I actually think Brad Pauls would possibly beat Kieran Conway. I know if you go after their last 2 performances, you might recency bias, you might struggle to see it. But Brad Pauls, Kieran Conway, British Commonwealth, that's more his level. They're here. Denzel's a little bit further up.
Yeah. You're right. He's a little bit below your top world champions, but he's above British level. Yeah, completely agree. So hopefully we see them both in good fights next. We'll move over to Puerto Rico next. We'll go Liam Paro and Richardson Hitchins. We watched that one live, Liam. I'm sure Jay's watched it back. Me and Liam got it wrong.
I
Jay
didn't
got
need
it
to
right.
watch it. Yeah, I knew what was going to happen. I didn't need to watch it, man.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, though, Jay, the first 3 rounds, I thought Paro was on top, and but Hitchins, like any great fighter and world champion, which he now is, made an adjustment, and Paro he didn't have any answers to it. I was actually really disappointed with Paro after the 3rd round. I think I gave him the first 3, then I gave Hitchins sort of 8 in a row or something after that. He kind of just walked forward and gave Hitchins the opportunity to fight his fight. I don't know whether Hitchins was,
hands, man.
Hitchins was downloading the data in the first few rounds and having a look, and then kind of put it on him. I don't know, but yeah, I was disappointed with Paro.
You could see what Hitchins were doing. He were keeping a distance. He was feinting, jabbing in, moving back. He just had Paro unsure of himself, and Paro needs to set himself to get his power off, doesn't he? And he wasn't letting him set himself. As soon as he set himself forward, Hitchins would go in and throw a combination to move Paro back. Paro then needs to readjust and reset himself. It was just all wrong for him. I think, even though I picked Hitchins to win, I believe that if they did that fight 10 times, you'd probably finish 5-all. I think if they boxed again in a month or 2, I think Paro could potentially knock him flat dead. They box again, Hitchins wins on points. It's one of those kind of rivalries. It were very even. There was no, that fight could have gone the other way. Let's not beat around the bush. I know some of the scorecards didn't reflect that.
It was a split, wasn't it? The card for Paro was terrible.
117, 110 was the Paro card. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, shocking.
Bullshit.
117, 111 it was.
Okay. Either way, it's still...
Yeah, it was a shocker.
Luke, and I don't know what you mean. What do you think of
He just asked. It's probably because we're talking about Gallagher, and he's probably just saying, do any of us have any opinion on Dominic Ingram?
All right, man, I like him. Yeah, good coach. His dad were better, but yeah, good coach.
His dad was unbelievable.
Yeah, Hitchins should have you do.
On the night, I scored it 115, 113 to Paro. Going back and watching it again off a live, I didn't put sound on as soon as I knew Chris Mannix was involved in it. That
scorecard was disgraceful to Paro.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How you can have that 6 rounds to Paro is ridiculous.
I gave it 3 or 4 rounds to Hitchins.
Yeah, when I went back and rewatched it, I scored it 116, 112 to Hitchins. So I changed.
To 9 rounds for Liam Paro in that fight is very worrying.
Yeah.
On the night, I gave Paro the first 5, Hitchins everything, and then Hitchins everything to round 12. Watching it back, I gave Paro the first 3, then Hitchins everything apart from the 10th or 12th, I think it was. So that's where
I think my card watching it, I can't remember live, but I watched it again.
12-0.
First 3 Paro, next 8 Hitchins, last Paro for 8-4.
Yeah, look, and that's where it's at. And Liam Paro's already come out and said that was the wrong game plan. Those were the wrong tactics. It's not come out with any BS excuses.
So I'll ask you both a question then. Do we feel that Paro fell in love with his own power and thought that was enough to get him out of that?
Possibly.
Because everybody was going. I mean, even you said it, didn't you, Sam? He hits too hard.
I was drinking the Kool-Aid.
I just had a feeling that Hitchins was going to be fully aware of that and was good enough to stay away from it, which I think he proved. But I do believe that Paro was at times in that fight chasing him, trying to knock him out, instead of boxing with him, and the knockout, you either make it or it comes. I think when fighters chase knockouts, they usually get hurt or it doesn't come off. And I think that's what he did potentially. That's how I feel anyway. I think
you're right.
One of 2 things happened for me. He either fell in love with his power and believed he was going to get him out of there, or he just didn't. Him and his team just didn't have the ability to change the game plan on the night. That's more what it looked like to me, especially
when it wasn't working.
When it wasn't working, there wasn't any instructions. I said I watched without sound. I did want to listen to the corners between rounds. There was no instructions of right now, come onto the back foot and look to counter. Look to let him come forward and then let your attacks go. He was just a constant Ricky Hatton-esque of coming forward, sitting on the chest all night, never taking a backward step. Yeah, whereas a few adjustments have actually given himself a bit more time. Yeah. The way he was picking his shots at times, he probably would have been able to turn the tides, but there was just a reluctance to do it. But look, Liam Paro will come again. Richardson Hitchins has already said he's not long for 140. Paro's less likely to move up, I would say, out of the 2.
Jack Catterall then? Does Jack Catterall get shot?
Hitchins, Catterall would make sense. But again, we said it on Saturday night, me and Sam. Jack Catterall needs to make some noise, or Sam Jones on social media.
Though, can he? That's the thing with Jack Catterall.
I think they're going to go with Catterall Barboza on the basis of that's an easier fight for Catterall, and the winner will probably be elevated to full champion because Teofimo's moving up.
The problem for Jack Catterall is very similar to what we've just been saying about motivations and stuff like that. I just think the Barboza fight's all wrong for him, and I think if he's not on it, then he could lose that fight.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's perceived as like the weakest guy, Barboza. So it just turns up expecting to, to win.
And the other thing for me, if they're taking the Barboza fight purely off of assuming that Teofimo is going to move up and that it will come for a full belt, making assumptions can make you look like a right arse sometimes.
Well, Teo's a prick. If Teo will probably just dig his heels in and say, no, I'm going to stay where I am now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at all this marketing I've got. Now I'm going to come down and fight the 12th best Latvian, or not Latvian, but you get South American flipping lightweight and he'll stay at the division.
Yeah.
Go after Richardson Hitchins. It's an in-house fight. Even if Jack's got to go over to America.
Just go out, man. Go get the world titles.
Sam Jones was out in wherever he was with Nassim Hamid's son, going 4-0 instead of making any noise for him. It's just been there's been nothing from Jack at all over the weekend or anyone connected to him, which isn't the way it should have gone. They should be making noise now. Hitchins is in-house. That's the way to go.
Yeah,
we need this tomorrow, Pat. You're going to have us on here all night. We're going to end up doing
yeah, Sandy Ryan and the titles are locked at boxer. Where will they? Ryan level up in weight class. Pinheiro continues in 147.
Ask me tomorrow. I'll look into it ready for tomorrow, Pat.
We'll cover that one off for you on No Punches Pulled tomorrow night, Pat. Lastly, guys, Navarrete and Valdez reran it back. Barrack's in the house. Catterall beats Barboza. I would agree with you on that one. Barrack, hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in. It's a close fight, though. Navarrete Valdez. Well, to be fair, on the undercard, the featherweight WBO belt was on the line. Robizio Ramirez challenged Rafael Espinoza. It was a rematch as well. Espinoza won the first one on a decision. Ramirez ultimately he did quit, but he said he was seeing double, and it came back saying that his orbital went. So look, at the end of the day, if he was seeing double and his orbital went, he was protecting himself from any future damage. Look, he looks a real tough fighter. Espinoza, he's moved to 26-0, I think 22 stoppages. Him against Nick Ball in a unification for me, please. Love to see that fight.
Yeah, that's the way Espinoza needs to go. He needs to move towards unification fights to enhance his own reputation more than anything else. He's known in and amongst us. He's known by boxing diehards that study the game, that know world champions in divisions, but outside of that small pond, he's not really known. And Nick Ball's made no secret that he wants unifications this year. So that's the way to go with that. Yeah. Another good performance.
5'1" versus 6'1".
Yeah, look. Stranger things have happened, mate. Stranger things have happened. Nick Ball is a fan of banging in bodywork, so you give him a torso that big to work with, he's going to be salivating, isn't he?
Yeah, you're right. And then in the main event, Navarrete defeated Oscar Valdez by KO. Had him down 3 times in 6 rounds. Valdez never been stopped before. At the age of 33 now, his best days potentially behind him. Navarrete winning his first fight since they last fought. He drew to Conceição, lost to Berencic last time up at 135. So he's got a renewed lease of life. He's a super featherweight and he performs his best at super featherweight. Navarrete, it's just as simple as that. I'd like to see him fight Shaki Foster next in the unification. I think that'd be a great fight.
Agree with you, mate. But Navarrete looks like he put all the frustration, all the anger, and all the crap he's had in him from the last 2 performances out in that performance. And poor Oscar Valdez on Saturday night. You could have probably put anyone in that ring opposite him. He was going to deliver that level of performance. It was just spiteful. Every single punch was thrown to absolutely take Valdez's head or steal his soul with body shots. That was, that's one of the best versions of Navarrete I've seen for 3 or 4 years. And when I watched that back yesterday, it was fantastic performance. He's hopefully banished the demons of what was a difficult 2 fights previously for him, and hopefully he's shut up some critics now, which includes us, that we're asking, has he maybe started to fall off the cliff after his last 2 performances? Look, unifications, him against Shaki Foster, that is a boxer against the brawler. Can Shaki Foster deal with the power of Navarrete and get his boxing work off and, take it to 12 rounds, or will Navarrete be able to do similar to what he done with Valdez, just suffocate with workload and hurtful shots and eventually drown an opponent? That's the fight to make. They're both top rank, aren't they? So
it's easy.
Bob will put that on flipping in the Hulu theatre or something next year. That's not being disrespectful, but that's a Bob Arum top rank move. That's how they do that. Fantastic fight.
Great fight.
Or it goes on the undercard. Tio's come back or whatever. You get what I mean? Like, there's two ways it will go. Or either main event somewhere like the Hulu, or it will go on a Tio Lopez or something like that on the card.
Yeah, I'm with you. Lastly, then, before we round up, Pulev against Char, WBA regular heavyweight championship on the line.
No one cares. No.
Did either of you watch it? Obviously, we were doing the watch along.
You two weirdos did. I went downstairs and watched my dog take a shite because it was more interesting. No,
I watched it on time 60, and it still looked like they had flipping shackles on. So I
watched that fight.
Everyone online was saying it was a good fight.
Stop it, man. Have you ever seen either of them in a good fight?
Look, Manuel Shah hasn't fought in 2.5 years. Kubrat Pulev looked better because he'd been active, if that makes sense. But Kubrat Pulev is now probably going to be pushed towards Moses Atauma. And on a serious note, he could end up in serious trouble in that fight.
Moses Atauma will blast through him.
That's my point. But it could be, there's a danger to that fight because of the age factor of it as well. Of lots of different factors.
There, man. Just get him in there then. The world champion in there.
Well, that's what I do. Youngest ever world champion. And we'll know it's a regular belt, but the reality is,
It gets him the credence of
Pulev's going to get a fat paycheck for that, though. They're going to pay him a hell of a lot of money for him to sell the belt.
Mate, of course they will. But yeah, look, there was nothing of that fight. I'm glad that wasn't the only boxing we had to talk about on Saturday, because I don't actually know if I would have made it through a watch along if that was our action.
I would have blocked you both for asking me.
Oh dear. And on that bombshell, sorry, with a few new people in 445 Block who was with us for a lot of the watch along on Saturday. Hope you're well, my friend. Thanks for
good to see you again, mate.
Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Lucas said Char was shocking. Pulev was average. Yeah, that sounds about right. One was shocking, one was average, considering his age of 2 more. To be fair to Pulev, he is 43 years old, so to be in the ring and doing that, I will give him credit for that.
It's like having a choice between the dodgy kebab house or the dodgy pizza place on your way home after a night out. Which one, you know what you're going to get from both, but which one do you choose to go into?
The repercussions, definitely. Yeah, we'll discuss that tomorrow night, Pat. That's on my list, definitely. I saw that earlier. That would be great. Hawkan's here. Hope you're well, Hawkan. Best atmosphere was in Sevilla. It's a sellout and better fight than I expected. Yet I heard many people say it was actually a decent fight. So good stuff. Nobody cared about Maurice Wax, AJ Pulev, and Derek Chisora. Everyone concerned for that is correct. Yeah, Tony before Wack last time out, didn't he? And everyone was like, "Oh, Wack will give him rounds. He never gets stopped early."
Let's be really honest. Wack came in at about 26 stone after food outlets in the O2 on his way to the weigh-in. That was more of a concern in his age for everyone, I think.
Yeah, he stopped.
You looked at the size of him, and the stage nearly fell over, and that was probably everyone was worried about that as opposed to how old the geezer was. Jesus Christ! But take the point, Luca. Just going tongue in cheek, but take the point.
Right, I love it. Yeah, so right, that'll do for the weekend review. Then we'll be back 7:30 p.m. tomorrow for No Punches Paul, where we'll discuss all of the previews for this week, which is Monaco for Matt Truman, the Zone show, and Liverpool for the Natasha Jonas boxer card, Lauren Price on the card as well, MJ at Medallia headline in Monaco, I think, and Dillian White is fighting actually on Sunday as well. We'll discuss that.
You've got Jaime Munguia as well.
Jaime Munguia, yeah. So there's again back-to-back, weekends with multiple decent shows on. So we'll be there for that. Obviously, we'll discuss anything that's gone down as well, including Boots versus Tio negotiations, Pat. Until tomorrow then, boys, have a nice evening. You too, Pat. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. Yeah, good laugh tonight, Luca, as always, mate. Yeah, we'll be back 7:30 p.m. tomorrow then. No Punches Paul. Jay, Liam, pleasure as always.
Thanks, boys.
Yeah, I know, mate. Yeah, we'll definitely get into Ebenezer Tete and Dillian White, the fight on the Rock in Gibraltar that we've all asked for once and for all. So yeah, thanks for Jay and Liam, Luca, DJ, Pat, Hawkan, 445 Block, Wayne. Barak was with us as well. Rambler. Big up everybody for